All right, it looks like we're up and running. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening for our community connections. We're going to talk about our 100% virtual learning options for next school year, 21-22 in the fall. We have with us Lauren House from Dishman Hills High School. Eric Jurison from Spokane Valley High School will be joining us shortly. Lisa Skay from our new West Valley Virtual Learning Center is with us. And Rachel Goodwin from the K-12 Stride Company is here with us to talk about our K-8 curriculum. So the agenda for the evening is just a general overview of our virtual learning options for next year. We'll talk about our 9th through 12th grade options first, and then Rachel will take us through a simulation that she has set up for our kindergarten through 8th grade. And anytime that you have any questions, just add them into the Q&A session on the Q&A tab down at the bottom of your screen. And at the end of the presentation, we will go through each of those questions individually and answer them the best to our ability. So for next school year, we will have a 100% virtual learning option for all students K through 12th grade. You must opt in to enroll your student if that is an option that you are interested in taking part in. You will automatically be defaulted for full-time in-person learning at your home school unless you opt in and enroll. You also will need to choose the 100% virtual learning for a full semester or the full year. And students, when they're on during live instructions, will need to keep their camera on if other than approved by the teacher, and attendance guidelines are going to return back to normal. So this is really best option for families who are seeking a lot of flexibility and need some variability in their schedule. So here's our models. Through kindergarten through 8th grade virtual learning will run through our new West Valley Virtual Learning Center. And that is an online curriculum that will be provided by K-12 Stride Company, which is also the curriculum used at Washington Virtual Academy, otherwise known as WAVA, and OMAC. So it's the exact same curriculum, but with West Valley School District teachers. There'll be physical learning supplies delivered directly to your door to help support and engage students in learning. Our 9th through 12th grade options will run through Dishman Hills High School and Spokane Valley High School. Dishman Hills will have 2 models, and Lauren will get into detail about those in just a minute. But the first model is live virtual instruction for 2 days a week. And then the second model is independent virtual instruction. And then Spokane Valley High School has a core program that's more customized scheduling based on student needs. So Eric Jurison from Spokane Valley High School will be with us to talk about that. So I will pass it over to Lauren to talk about Dishman Hills.
Thank you. So at Dishman, we have a small school environment. We have under 300 students, which allows us to keep our classes between 10 and class. And our goal really is just that we can help students to be successful in all areas of their life. On our website, which is listed on the bottom there, and you can also get to it through the virtual learning website on the district page, we do have a tour of our facility and some videos introducing students and parent testimonials, as well as some videos with our teachers that talk about our school. So if you're interested in a little bit more information, we do have that there. And we have 3 different ways that you can engage with us at Dishman. Our in-person option is 4 half days where students come for between 8:30 and 11:30 or 12 to 3. And we operate on a quarter system, so students take 3 classes at a time. Our live virtual option that Vicki mentioned a few minutes ago is 2 half days of time where students are engaging live with teachers during either that 8:30 time or the 12 to 3 o'clock time. And then they have 2 days where they're doing independent work. The independent virtual is for students who are fully independent and they're working through that curriculum, following the pacing guide that they come up with their advisor. And then they're doing a weekly check-in. Those check-ins can be in person or they can be virtual. And really the independent virtual option is best for students who have other things going on during the regular school day and during those hours and can't access teachers in a typical week. So students that are working, students that are in competitive sports programs, and it works best for students who are able to follow that schedule and keep themselves on track and manage their time. The live virtual is for students who need just a little bit more structure, but they're still able to work independently on those off days to keep themselves on track. And no matter which option students choose, their advisor and our school counselor work with them to make sure that that program is the best fit for them. And if it's not, like, they're able to move between programs throughout the year. So once you pick one, you're not stuck in our school. And we will constantly check in with students to make sure that what they're doing is working for them and their families. If you're interested in more information, we have our website there on the bottom, or you can call our main office and set up an appointment.
All right, Eric Jurison, the principal of Spokane Valley High School, is here with us to talk about Spokane Valley High School options.
Hi there, good evening. We are, like Dishman, also a small school. Our community often uses the word family to describe how it feels to be in our building. There's a lot of relationships between teachers and students that and families that build a good connection between people and makes everybody feel comfortable and able to ask for help and ask questions and get things resolved that might be confusing. We really feel like those relationships help us get to know our students. And by doing that, we can customize what we're doing to best fit what their needs are and what their passions are, and hopefully hook them into really gaining confidence and finding success in their learning. We have 3 different programs. The virtual option is going to be offered through CORE, and that's where we have advisors that are assigned to students individually, and they meet with those students either virtually, or they could come in person 1 day a week to have a meeting that way if they wanted to. And then they get connected with curriculum that has a project-based aspect to it. So even the curriculum that's done through Google Classroom will integrate subjects and connect subjects together so that science and English would be taught together in a relevant project-based sort of way. And depending on your comfort with actually coming to school at all, it could be the possibility that you are doing most of the learning from virtually from a distance, but it could be that you come in and do a lab or something at school if there's a specific thing that you wanted to get a hands-on experience with. And then the Academy and the Endeavor program start to add in more time at school and more hands-on and project-based type things. So this would be a nice flexible way that if you wanted to start the year virtual, CORE would be a great way to start. And then after the year got started, if there was a reason for you to be able to switch from virtual to some in-person time, then Academy and Endeavor would be maybe a better way to go if your student's thriving and enjoying our project-based curriculum. And the next slide has a little more detail about CORE. So the logistics on CORE, typically our CORE students they schedule with their advisor, and they can do 1 to 2 days per week. So when they come for that day, they come for 1 to 2 hours. And we have slots available between 9 and 1:40 p.m. They would have one-on-one advising, and that teacher that's advising them, it's a certificated teacher, would be doing academic coaching with them, finding out what their needs are, what their questions are, what they're struggling with, encourage them in areas where they can grow. And then if they need specific academic coaching in a specific discipline, then they can also connect the student with somebody with more specific subject discipline knowledge. Those weekly visits can be virtual. And if they did want to come in person just that 1 day a week, they can get a free bus pass to do so. So as I mentioned earlier, the curriculum is project-based because it's engaging and relevant and integrated. Instead of having like 6 different classes to manage, the integration of the subjects allows there to be fewer subjects to juggle at the same time, which can be a little easier for virtual students to manage, so don't have too many different things going on at the same time. And then the pacing is fairly flexible so that they can work at the pace that makes sense for them. Obviously, they're going to be challenged and pushed by their advisor to keep a pace that's helping them earn credit. And then some of the benefits there, you just have one advisor that is the point of communication for your student and for you as a family. And so that helps make things a little bit easier to keep track of and making sure progress is good. And then opportunities to increase that time. Again, as I mentioned, as the year goes on, if if that student was feeling really comfortable and they wanted to come in like 2 days a week, 3 days a week, for a part-time program, or if they decided they want to come in 4 days a week, we have those other two programs that they could transition into as they were able to. So that's a little bit about our core program and the other programs that go along with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric and Lauren, for giving the background on those two programs. The other thing that we wanted to mention is if you are a West Valley High School student looking for a 100% virtual option, your choices would be the two programs at Dishman Hills or the three programs at Spokane Valley High School, depending on your needs. If you have any questions for the 9th through 12th grade options, feel free to put questions in the Q&A and or the comment section if you're on Facebook, and we will get to those at the end of this presentation. The next piece, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Rachel Goodwin from the Stride Company, which is the curriculum that we will purchase to use for kindergarten through 8th grade, will walk us through the pieces and parts of the curriculum and take us on a little tour.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm so excited to be here today. As Vicki has mentioned, I'm going to go through a couple of slides here just to give you a nice overview of the type of curriculum and platform that your child might be engaged with when they are enrolled in our particular courses. Again, we're so excited to be able to partner up with your district. And if you have any questions on any of the information that we presented today, again, please don't hesitate to put it in the Q&A or in the question area where Vicki mentioned before, so we can be able to answer those particular questions. So the first thing I would like to discuss is just the K-5 courses first, and then we'll look at the middle school courses. The K-5 courses are based on the principle of mastery. So students are going to be learning through online engaging delivery of content, and then practice through interactive activities online, as well as apply those skills they've just learned online through hands-on offline opportunities that are strategically placed in the lesson through the use of the manipulatives and the materials that are provided in those course kits that Vicki mentioned before. So everything is aligned to those learning objectives that's presented in those lessons for the students to work through. All the courses are flash free, whether it's K-5 or in the 6 through 8, which allows the platform to be able to minimize the accessibility challenges, meaning that students are able to access the content in the platform using a variety of devices, such as a Chromebook, iPad, and so forth. Also, due to it being flash free, we're able to then have various types of delivery of content, so multimedia type of approach. So your student would see videos, audio explanation, show and tell, they'd be moving objects around, and I'll show an example of that in a few moments in our live environment here. We talked about those materials. So as I mentioned, for those offline activities, we do have materials that are associated with those courses. So families would be receiving a material kit for each of the course that they are enrolled in. And here we see on the screen a couple of examples of some of those materials that would be delivered to them. So in the math kit, for instance, if we look all the way to the left, you have base 10 blocks, activity pages, or activity student pages, excuse me, as well as lesson guides. So as a parent, as the student is working through their courses, they are also given a lesson guide to help them understand what the student would be doing online, as well as some guidance to those activities that students would be completing offline. And then you'll see there, we have an example of a science kit there in the middle screen picture, where there are various different materials that are then provided, from nonfiction books to microscopes, to balances and so forth. Again, all aligned to those lesson activities that make up the courses. And then the one all the way to the right is just an example of some of the materials in our ELA courses. So students will be working through texts online, but also they will be engaging with texts coming from various different books, fiction and nonfiction. With our middle school courses, our middle school and high school courses are actually found on the same type of platform, but the middle school courses are very rigorous, but again, having the same concept of making sure we have engaging lessons online. Most of the materials, though, would be found online. So students would just simply go into their course and have access to those digital manipulatives as well as those digital texts. There's various different student supports that are available within those lessons. Even in a K-5 courses, we have a reading toolbar, allowing the text that they see online to be read to them. We also have the capability of translating that text in over 65 different languages. So in K-5, as well in our middle school courses, students are given various support tools to assist them so they can be successful in completing the tasks and activities they would find online. Even though we have online courses, we really truly believe the student learning experience requires a partnership, a relationship that exists between the student, the teacher and the parent and the student. So each role has its own set of responsibilities, which again is based on the grade level that the student is in. But the most important thing to remember in this partnership is the open line of communication. So ensuring that we have all the right resources and tools, which we do have various of those tools within the course itself, as well as just knowing those expectations and responsibility and role coming from the teacher. Some of the things to think about or roles of a student when working through our particular courses is one that students are going to be responsible of completing their daily plan. So each student, K through 8, do have their own access to their own student dashboard. And through the student dashboard, they're able to see exactly what their learning day will consist of, from assignments to when activities are due and so forth, as well as being able to track their own progress. So as students are working through their lessons and units, they're able to see how they're moving ahead within the course itself. In addition to completing those lessons, there's also class connect sessions. So those live synchronous sessions that the teachers would invite the students in. Again, the students would be easily able to access those lessons from their student dashboard. And then another example of a role of the student or responsibility of a student in the virtual K-8 program is completing those online and offline activities. Again, the daily plan is already outlined in their dashboard, and then students obviously need to go in, complete those assignments, and their teacher will let them know what needs to be turned in, what they need to continue practicing on. But all of that, again, is communicated through their daily plan from their dashboard. And then lastly, and I know I mentioned this before, but communication is so vital. We do have tools within the platform to allow easy accessibility to teachers and for them to be able to communicate back and forth in that virtual learning environment. But again, we always believe it's really important to emphasize the importance of communication. So the student really knowing how to communicate with their teacher, as well as knowing where to access certain resources that they can find from their dashboard, but also knowing those resources that can be found within the district. Looking at the role of the learning coach, which is the parent. So the adult that's going to be assisting the student or monitoring the student while they're working through their daily plan in that virtual learning environment. Here are just a couple examples of some of the role and responsibility of what we call a learning coach. So again, that caring adult that'll be working with the child as they're going through their learning day. Again, right on top there, you'll see communication, right? Again, making sure that you're able to check those emails, responding to the teacher. And we do have, we're going to be looking in a few moments here at the Learning Coach dashboard, but there are tools available to allow easy access to the teacher and to other resources that they might need to support the student who's working. Monitoring. That's another role of the learning coach. They need to go through their dashboard and keep track of those overall progress and grades, assisting those students meeting their academic goals and monitoring those students' schedule. Obviously, with a middle schooler, you might not need to be hovering over it and tell them exactly when they need to jump into a session. Compared to those younger kids, you might need to be looking at their schedule and ensuring that they're following their schedule and attending those live sessions. Assist, that's another area, especially in the K-5 curriculum. We do have those offline activities. So it's important that you are able to be available for the student to help facilitate those offline activities and be able to assist with any kind of questions that they might have and direct them to the right resource so they can complete those lessons successfully. Then we're looking at student organization. So assisting them with the materials, for instance. So as they're going through their daily plan and there's going to be opportunities for that offline learning, that learning coach is going to be having to pull those offline manipulatives or books and things to help them complete their daily lessons. And then lastly, assessments. So whatever assessment is required by the district, making sure the student is attending those assessment days and completing those during the testing window. There are assessments within the courses in K through 12 that some of them are online. But in the lower grades in K-5, there are offline assessments that also need to be provided to the student and then reported back to the teacher. With all that being said, as a learning coach or that caring adult, you are not alone. We do have resources, again, found within the parent dashboard, but also we have an e-community that learning coaches can then access where they can pull different types of resources, whether that is synchronous or asynchronous type of resources, as well as being able to connect with other learning coaches and also take advantage of other opportunities that's available to virtual students across the nation. While you're thinking of whether this is a good fit for your K-8 child, here are just a couple of questions that just when I'm working with other parents and learning coaches that they've talked to me about, like, these are the questions that I always need. I wish someone asked me as I was planning, to be a learning coach and supporting my child in that virtual learning environment. So just some questions to kind of consider as you are thinking about enrolling your child is, one, having access to internet. It is vital, as I mentioned, we do have online lessons, so students are going to be engaging with content online, but we also have those offline activities as well. But it's going to be important for them to be able to access those online lessons in order for them to do those offline activities. Especially in the middle school courses, everything is online. So it's vital to have that strong internet connection for the students to be able to complete their work. Also, feeling comfortable navigating through online content. Again, we do provide training, support, and access to a variety of resources, but considering just taking a step back and how comfortable feeling going through those online content. As well as, does the schedule allow to support learning activities at home? Especially in K-5, as I mentioned, we do have those offline activities. So it's important that the student is able to have time in their schedule to do the online as well as the offline, and for a parent to be available to assist them if needed during those offline pieces of the lesson. And then lastly, the comfortability level of reaching out for help and seeking resources independently. There are a lot of resources and lots of support within our particular platform. However, making sure that communication is clear, right? So when you're having that questions, knowing where to go, feeling comfortable of asking those questions and not feeling as though they don't have the right tools to be successful. We again are here to support the families and the district to ensure the students, the teachers, as well as the parents have everything that they need in order to be successful in a virtual program in K through 8. couple of things, resources that I have shared already with the district that you might want to take a peek at as you're making that informed decision. We have provided some examples of those K-8 lessons that students would be engaged with and what would look like those activities, what they would look like online as well as offline. We've also shared the resource of a day in a life. So looking at just a typical virtual student in K-8, what their day could possibly look like. Again, that is not including some of those expectations that might be set by the district, but it gives a little peek on what could possibly be the day, a typical day for a parent as well as for a student. And then we've also shared what I call a one-pager reference page. It just provides a little bit more information about the learning coach. So that adult, that caring adult supporting that student in that virtual environment. What does that mean? How many hours typically? What are the resources? All of that information would be found in that resource that we have shared with the district. Now I'm going to stop sharing this PowerPoint, going directly into that parent dashboard that I mentioned previously. So whether you have a student in K-5 or in middle school, we did take an approach of we wanted to make it really easy for parents to be able to access the data, the resources, and those supports. So here in this parent dashboard, a parent can toggle from one student to another. And this is the type of information that is provided for the parent. The parent is able to see the student schedule so they know what their learning day consists of and what subject areas they're going to be engaged in for the day, as well as those assignments or lesson activities they will be completing. And as the student is completing that, the parent will get a nice green check mark here, allowing for easy view on where the student is in their learning day. As I mentioned before about those synchronous sessions. So even as a parent, you'll be able to see when those sessions are scheduled for your child to be attending. Again, students do have their own dashboard, and that is where they would access their courses as well as their synchronous schedule. But for a parent, we want to make sure we were transparent. So this is a great way for you to see quickly how much of the work needs to be completed that day and what is expected for them to complete. We also have courses. So even as a parent, you are able to go into a course and actually see what a student online lesson would look like and what they would be doing and engaging in that day, as well as their current grade, how they're progressing through the course, if there are any overdue items, and then there's that communication. So when they need to communicate with the teacher, they can do all of that simply by going to their parent dashboard. As I mentioned about various tools, we do have that Engage site. So right from the dashboard, that's where you can get those additional resources to assist with questions like, how do I open up the attachment, or I need to send an email to my teacher. So those job aids and resources are all located in our e-community for our parents, as well as a parent can easily get into the middle school platform as well, right from their quick links. And then here are the materials. So as you're waiting for your materials to come in, or you're wondering what items are going to be in your material kits, then again, really easy way is just going to the quick links and being able to access all of that information right here from their dashboard. Just so that we could see a quick glimpse of what a lesson could possibly look like, we're going to jump right over here to that third grade student here. And again, right from the course area here, we're able to then click on the course and see all of the content that is going to be delivered to the student. As this is coming up, again, please don't hesitate to put any questions in the Q&A area, and we'll be happy to answer those. So as a parent, I'm going to see all of the units and lessons, as well as those assessments, to see what my child is going to be doing for that day. And just by simply clicking on a lesson, I can view it as a parent, or I can view it and toggling it over as a student. So just quickly, just kind of showing you what a possible lesson would look like. Again, some various supports are available for students as they're going through the content. Here's those supports that are available K through 8, our reading toolbar. And as a parent, if you're going through the lesson, you have access to those supports as well. From a reading toolbar, as well as words can be defined. And then there's our translation tool that's available as well. Students are going to be learning through various different delivery models. So you might see a video, you might see some drag and drop. Again, various different ways that a student is going to be engaging online with the courses and the curriculum. But again, as a learning coach, you are able to peek in and see what that lesson would consist of if you wanted to get more insight on what the student is doing for that day. All right, Vicki. So I wanted to make sure at least for them to get a peek, and obviously anything else that they'd like to see a sample lesson, we share that with the district, and they're going to be able to share that with parents if they would like to get more information on the structure of these courses as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. And if you want more information, we do have our website up and running. So if you go to the schools tab and drop the menu down, West Valley Virtual Learning Center is the first one on the list, and it has all of the information and the resources that Rachel was referring to. We do have 3 questions that came up in the Q&A, and this will give us some time for any of the K-8 parents or students to ask questions in the Q&A while we answer the other questions that came up. So the first one, if a student wants to remain 100% virtual, does that mean they are no longer a student at West Valley High School? So yes, essentially a West Valley High School student would transfer either to Dishman Hills or Spokane Valley High School, depending on what program matched their needs the best. The next follow-up to that is, will they not graduate from West Valley? So if the student, it depends on how old the student is, but if the student transfers back to West Valley High School right at the second semester or earlier of their senior year, then they graduate from West Valley High School. The next question is for Lauren.
So the next question is, will Dishman Hills continue to use Summit Learning for their learning platform? And the answer to that is yes. On our website, we do have under academics, we have information on grading and curriculum that includes videos for parents and students to understand how they can use our learning platform and answer some like frequently asked questions that folks may have as they're navigating that for the first time.
Thank you. And the next one is, what is the deadline to enroll for virtual? So official enrollment in Skyward doesn't really happen until August, but we would really like to know if you're interested or have decided to go virtual as soon as possible. It helps us plan staffing and plan which teachers will be teaching what grade levels and how many students we have. So if you go to our virtual learning website, there is a request registration link, and you just fill out a form, and that will send you an email that confirms that you've requested enrollment, and then we will connect with you to continue our enrollment process. So even if you are kind of on the fence and a maybe, we'd rather you share that information with us now. But really, essentially, the deadline is probably a week before school starts so that we can get the materials to you in a timely manner and get your student off on the right start. And at this point, we have no other questions. Do any of our panelists want to share anything before we end? Okay, if you have any questions that come up, feel free to call the district office at 509-924-2150 or access the links on our website. And we will do our best to answer your question. And we thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.